Okay, Brucham Habayim, welcome everyone. We have an amazing share tonight, Megillas Rus. We begin Sefer Bamidbar this week. The Shir on Sefer Bamidbar are again generously sponsored by Dr. Zakheim Umeshpachta. We thank Dr. Zakheim for dedicating Sefer Bamidbar. Lila Nishmas, Rav Shlomo Eliezer ben Rav Yaakov Zakheim, Rivka bas Tzvi Halevi, Rav David ben Rav Yaakov Tzvi HaKoyen. Began Eden Tehimenu Chasai. Tonight's shir is sponsored by my dear friends Reb Joey and Julia Baghdadi, who Reb Joey is very instrumental in helping disseminate the shiurim in honor of their dear son Reuven bar mitzvah today. Tizko legadloi leTorah lechupa olamasim tovim. Okay, here's the upcoming schedule. Next week, Yom Tov is Monday, Tuesday. The shir Be'ez Hashem will be regular Wednesday evening. Public service announcement. We're starting a new Seder starting tomorrow morning. The Chafetz Chaim Yomi cycle begins anew tomorrow morning. It's a 4-month cycle. If you want to join us, we learn every morning Mishnah Berurah at 9 a.m. to 9:15 a.m. Following Mishnah Berurah will be approximately at 9:15 will be Chafetz Chaim Yomi. You could catch it live on Zoom. You could hear the recording. You could join the group. I think the link went out if you want to join the group. It will be a big zechus. As we know, the Chafetz Chaim Sefer is one of the most influential Sfarim in the last 100 years probably. And the Manchester Rosh Yeshiva said there is no family that learns Sefer Chafetz Chaim that has not experienced great Yeshuas in their family. Okay, some more public service announcements. If you're looking for some good learning material for the Yom Tov of Shuas, make sure you get Elakah Demeir Anini. Elakah Demeir Anini in Lashon Kodesh. In English, there's a lot of good material here about Shavuos, the minhag of eating milchiks on Shavuos, Kabbalas HaTorah Midin Banim Lamakoim. It's available on rabbidg.com or better, Sfarim stores near you. The next Sefer in the queue, the cover is already designed. Sefer Tzipisa L'Yeshua of the Chafetz Chaim. It's on the brink of publishing. If anybody wants to be mishtatef in publishing, Sefer Tzipisa L'Yeshua. Actually, when it was first published, the Chafetz Chaim was not able to publish it because of censorship. So he had to supplement it in a journal called Hapeles, somewhere between the years 1900 and 1910. Actually, if you out there are able to identify the very first publishing of Tzipisa Yeshua, and you'll be helping me out, and you'll win a free copy of the upcoming Tzipisa Yeshua. I've spoken to many historians all day today, trying to find the very first publishing of Tzipisa Yeshua. It seems that it was published as a supplement in the journal Hapeles, but it's unclear what year it was. Then it was published in 1921. Then it was published in 1921 in Boston. Can you imagine? The first official publishing of Tzipisa Yeshua was published in Boston, and then it was published in 1929. Okay, here we go. There is a very interesting medrash about Megillas Rus. What exactly is the purpose of Megillas Rus? What exactly do we learn out from Megillas Rus? The medrash tells us in Rus Rabbah, Parsha Hey Ois Vav, in Parsha Beis Ois Yadalit, Amar Rav Zeira, Megillah Zu Ein Boy Loi Tuma V'Loi Tara. This Megillah does not teach you the laws of impurity or purity. V'Loi Yisr V'Heter, not prohibition, not permissibility. V'Lama Nichtava. This Megillah is not written to teach me halacha. So why was it written? L'lamedcha, it's to teach you Kama Sachar Toiv L'Goim Le'Chasadim. How much reward is in store for those who do chesed. In other words, there is no halacha l'maisa that is learnt out from Megillas Rus. So why was it written? To teach me the schar of doing chesed. So let's analyze the Megillah. Obviously, there's probably a lot to learn of how to do chesed to people. So, it's very interesting. There are a lot of chasadim in Megillas Rus. Rus didn't forsake her mother-in-law, who is an almana. The chesed of Boaz to Rus, that Boaz performed yibum. But there's a very strange incident in the Megillah. Boaz meets Rus for the first time. Rus is a poor person. She comes to collect leket, and Boaz is a wealthy guy. And what does the pasuk say? The pasuk says, Vayomer la Boaz la'es ha'oichel. Boaz says at mealtime, Goishi haloim, come close. V'achalt min halechem, eat from the bread. V'tavalt pitech b'chometz, and dip your bread in salt. So what does she do? She says, okay, dinner is served. V'ateshev mitzad hakoitzrim. She sits on the side of the harvesters. Vayitzbat la kali. What does it mean, vayitzbat la kali? The Medrash says in number 1 on your sheet, Kalil ze'er b'shtei etzba'osav. He sprinkled a little bit with his 2 fingers. He gave her some toasted grain. How much? He sprinkled with his 2 fingers. Wow, very generous. How magnanimous. Somebody knocks on your door. The guy's starving. You're one of, Forbes top 100. And the guy says, could you make a donation? You say, wait a second. You bring out your supper plate. You stick your hand in the chicken. You give him a little shmek of chicken. And then you give him a half a potato. The guy is gonna, he'll faint. This is the generosity of Boaz. This is the book that teaches you how to do chesed. This sefer was written not to teach me halacha, to teach how to do chesed. This is the chesed of Boaz. So this medrash is very difficult. First of all, Boaz is the shofet. He's the Gadol Hadar. And this book was written to teach me the reward of chesed. This is the chesed of the Gadol Hadar. Furthermore, and this is amazing, Ruth randomly came to this field. She didn't know whose field it was. And Boaz came and he saw her. And what does the pasuk say? Boaz said, Limi hanara hazois. Who's this girl? So the Medrash asks, Rashi quotes, V'chidarko shel Boaz lishol benashim. Is it Boaz's derech to ask about women? Why is he asking who she was? Who cares who she was? She's an ani. Why does he need to know who she was? So Rashi explains, Ella, divrei tznius v'chachma rabba. He saw her modesty. He saw her wisdom. Rabba shtei shibalim likta. She saw 2 sheaves. She gathered it. Shloisha loy likta. She didn't gather 3. She's only allowed to take leket if it's 2, not if it's 3. What else did he see? V'hoisem la'ketes oimdois me'umad v'shoichvois meyushav. When she would gather those bundles that were sort of tall, she collected standing. Those bundles that were on the ground, she would sit in her place in a very modest way, as opposed to bending over. So he realized that this woman knows Torah, knows halacha, and is very modest. And he was taken by her wisdom and her modesty. What exactly was he taken by? What he was taken by was his wife just died. And here this woman came to his field. Boaz was an alman. His wife just passed away on that very day. The very day that Naomi and Ruth came back to Beis Lechem Yehuda, Boaz was going out to the levaya of his wife. And now all of a sudden Boaz sees this woman, and she's a prospective shidduch. So just imagine, you take the girl out on the first date, you're in the Brooklyn Marriott, you order 1 Diet Coke, and she says, oh, did you forget to order for me? You say, no. Okay. The waiter comes, puts 2 cups in front of you, and puts the Diet Coke by the guy. And she's looking, what's she going to drink? And then all of a sudden you stick your hands into your cup, and you sprinkle 2 drops into her cup. Now it's true, boys have the upper hand these days. We know that. And the girl just has to go, but still, she's not going to. What girl is going to go for that? I mean, he's interested in her. Chazal say he's interested in her. And this is what he gives her. It's bad enough that he's the Gadol Hadar, he's a wealthy man, she's coming for tzedakah. This is the Megillah that's supposed to teach you how to do chesed, and he gives her nothing. But in light of the fact that he's interested in her, this is all that he gives her? Moreover, the Gemara says on the pasuk, he said, come here. Goishi haloim. So says the Gemara, what does it mean, Goishi haloim? Amar Rebbe Lazar, remez ramazla. He alluded to her. Asida Malchus Beis David, Lotseis Mimcha. The Davidic dynasty is destined to come from you. In other words, what? Yeah. The Davidic dynasty is going to come from you. So, meaning, not only is he interested in her, but he's telling her that Malchus will come from you. He's sort of being merames to her. By the way, this is tachlis. This is tachlis over here. So wait a second. He's the Gadol Hadar, and he is interested in her, and he is merames to Ruach HaKodesh that he's interested in her, and he gives her a sprinkling of toasted grain. What's going on over here? By the way, it's even more difficult. Why? Because you know how long it takes for Boaz and Ruth to get together again? The pasuk says, "Mitchilas katsir sa'orim ad kilois katsir sa'orim." From the beginning of the harvest of the barley to the end of the harvest of the barley. 3 months. Meaning, he says he doesn't see her for 3 months. Now, some guys have cold feet when it comes to shidduchim. They go out, and then they call right out, yeah, we're interested. And then in the morning, they shout, no, they have change of heart, not interested. Then an hour later, they're interested again. But I mean, he didn't see her for 3 months. If he's interested in her, you got to get some momentum going over here. You can't go out once every 3 months. Even in, so what? You got to get married, the life goes on. There's no halacha, you wait until the end of Avelos. What? Especially for a wife, is only 30 days. But even so, Pruravu, yeah. I mean, these days, at least twice a week. 3 months? No, nothing's going to happen if you don't see somebody for 3 months. So what's going on over here? The Megillah was written to teach me the schar of chesed. And this is Boaz the Gadol Hadar. And he's a wealthy man. And he's interested in her. And he's merames to her that he's interested in her. And he doesn't see her for 3 months. And he sprinkles some crumbs on her plate. What exactly is going on over here? What was Boaz's kavana? It's a pella, even if he wouldn't be interested in her. All the more so where Boaz sees that she's a prospective shidduch. So here we go. What we're going to learn tonight is based on a Rugachover. And the Rugachover is found in like 2 lines in the Sefer Gedal Yahu on Shavuos. You can mamish gloss over the whole thing and miss it. 2 lines of the Rugachover, which is like a bolt of lightning that illuminates the entire Megillah. Without these 2 lines of the Rugachover, it is impossible to understand Megillas Rus. This is based on a shir I heard from Rabbi Yisrael Reisman. This got to go back more than 25 years ago. Okay, this is based on a shir I heard from him more than 25 years ago. There's a big question. Elimelech is the Gadol Hadar. His children, Machlon and Kilyon, were Gedolei Hadar. They leave Eretz Yisrael, they go to the fields of Moav, and they marry 2 ladies. Their names were Rus and Arpa. They are Moabites, they come from the nation of Moav. The $1 million question is, did they convert or did they not convert? Yeah? You ever think about that question? Did Rus and Arpa convert or did they not convert? So, there are 2 opinions. Opinion number 1, the Rishonim, Tosfos and Ksubis. The Gemara in Ksubis is discussing Sheva Brachos. A girl who never got married marries a boy who never got married, you have Sheva Brachos. What if the guy was married before? What if the girl was married before? What if they both were an Almoin who married an Almana? And in the Megillah it seems like Boaz gathered 10 people for Sheva Brachos, yeah? For Sheva Brachos. What do you mean Sheva Brachos? Boaz is an Almoin and Rus is an Almana. Rus lost her husband Machlain and Boaz lost his wife. So what exactly is the Sheva Brachos? So that's the Gemara's kasha. V'ha Boaz Almoin shenasa Almana frek Tosfos. Rus is an Almana? Rus is not an Almana? She said, yeah, she married Machlain. She wasn't married to Machlain. Yeah, but the Megillah says she was married to Machlain. No, Machlon never converted her. So she was a guy. So Machlon wasn't married to her. So Ruth is not an almana. So Tosfos' kasha is, how could the Gemara say that Ruth is an almana, but she was never married to Machlon? So Tosfos says, Lav dafka, she was a be'ula. And since she was a be'ula, meaning she was not a basula, she's not an almana, but she is a woman who is a be'ula, and therefore we consider her almoin shenasa almana. Tosfos says openly that Machlon married Ruth as a Gentile woman. She was a Gentile. He did not convert her. The Gadol Hadar married a non-Jewish woman. Yeah. She married a non-Jewish woman. Okay, that's the opinion of Tosfos. Look in the Targum. Targum, you know who wrote the Targum on Ruth? The Targum on Ruth, look at the Targum. Ve'al da'avru al gezera memra da'ashem ve'ischatanu be'amim min nuchran isketau yomein. Says Targum, because Machlon violated the command of Hashem and they married Gentiles, they died. In other words, why did Machlon and Kilyon die? Targum says because they married Goyim. So Targum says explicitly they did not convert these women. Tosfos and the Targum, they say they married Goyim. Who else says they married Goyim? Rashi. Remember, listen to what Nami tells Rus and Arpa. What are you sticking around with me for? You think you can get a Yerusha from me? I have no money. Oh, you think I'm going to have another child? First of all, I'm too old to get married. And even I'm too old to get married and to have a child, and that you'll marry the child. Oh, but you'll say, what do you mean marry the child? If I have a child, the child is usher to you. Why? What do you mean? Don't they have to marry the child through the mitzvah of Yibum, right? Because we know that if somebody's husband died and they didn't have children, then they cannot marry anyone else until they marry the brother of the deceased. So Naomi is telling Rus and Arpa, I'm too old to have a child. But if I would have a child, ordinarily that child would be usher to them because of the principle of Eishes Achiv Shaloi Haya Ba'ilama. You know what Eishes Achiv Shaloi Ba'ilama means? Normally, if somebody's husband dies without children, they have to marry the husband, they have to marry the brother of the deceased. But if there is no brother of the deceased, and the brother is born after the deceased dies, so the two brothers were not in the world at the same time, that is your husband's brother that you're not allowed to marry in Yibum. It's Eishes Achiv Shaloi Ba'ilama. So Nami is saying, but I'm too old to get married and have a kid. But if I would be able to get married and have a kid, you would be able to marry this boy. Why? But isn't it Eishes Achiv Shaloi Ba'ilama? No. Because you were actually never married to Machlon. Why? Because he never converted you. So if I would have a kid, you would be able to marry them. So Rashi, like Tosfos and the Targum, says that Machlon and Kilyon did not convert Rus and Arpa. Isn't that astounding that they married Goyim? Two Gedolei Hadar married Goyim.
So where did she, back to number one, where did she learn the halacha of blackout? Okay, that she does that.
Oh, she must have converted after. She converted after. In fact, the Gemara in Yevamos learns out the dinim of Gerus from Naomi's conversation with Rus when Rus wants to follow her back. That implies there was a Gerus, but it supports the idea that beforehand they weren't converted. Right? So that supports what we're saying. So this is the opinion of Tosfos, Targum, Rashi. Comes the Zohar HaKadosh, and the Zohar HaKadosh says, Chas v'shalom, Machlon v'Kilyon, Shnei Gedolei Hadar, Nasu Oisam b'Hagaya. Heaven forbid that Gedolei Hadar would marry Goyim, Ela Nisgairu, right? I mean, look, between us, it's not really that common to hear that your rabbi married a guy, right? It's not you don't usually hear those things, especially Gedolei Hadar. I'm saying you were in yeshivas, right? Do you ever hear? Doesn't? What?
Gerim also.
Well, they don't marry Gerim either, but for sure not. No, I know many Rabbanim who married Gerim. Yeah, Chashav Rabbanim. Not necessarily first time around, but yeah, many.
Really?
Yeah. But Goyim, no. So the Zohar says, Chas v'sholai machlin and kilyon shnei gedolei hadar nasu oisam agoya ela nesgairu. So the Zohar says that they were converted. The Zohar seems to be supported by the Rambam. Now it's a little bit questionable whether this Rambam really supports the Zohar. The Rambam says, if you live in the land of Israel, are you allowed to leave? Question. Simple, straight up. If you live in Israel, you're born in RBS, you grew up in RBS, so you speak English, and you eat ice cream sometimes, right? Are you allowed to leave the land of Israel because you want to see the Eiffel Tower? I don't think so, no. You can't leave. If you live in Israel, you can't leave.
Even for
I said the Eiffel Tower, yeah. So you want to go to Cyprus because
they have a simcha.
So there are certain heterim to leave. What are they? To learn Torah. You have a Rebbe. So you say, but there are also rabbis in Israel. No, you have to go to your rabbi. Some people say they live in a certain community, and they say and they have a good shul, and they have a good rav. They say, yeah, but I want to move to that neighborhood. Really? Where are you going to daven? When I get there, I'll figure it out. No, bad move. Bad move. If you have a good rav, you can't leave him. That's your life. You stay in that neighborhood. You don't just leave, because the Gemara says a principle, you can't learn from anybody. You can't, there's certain people that Hashgacha has it that you could learn from. When you have them, when you find somebody, stick to them. Because don't say, yeah, I'll move elsewhere, because elsewhere I'm going to get 3 more inches in one room in the house, and I'm going to get 4 feet of grass more, and I'm going to pay $200 less on my mortgage, so I'm going to leave. Where are you going to daven? What do you mean? There are 100 shuls there. Yeah, but there are 100 shuls, but you might not even find one that will be as good as where you are now. Okay. Why else could you live Israel? There are different heterim. What? Parnasa. To make a living. Parnasa is a heter, yes. However, what if there's famine in the land of Israel? You're allowed to go, the Rambam says, but it's not midas chasidus. Why? How do we know? Because Machloin and Kilyoin died for leaving the land of Israel. Rambam. That's why they died? They died because they married Goyim. Isn't that right? Let's say you're trying to figure out, Machlon and Kilyon died. Did they die because they didn't fulfill the righteousness of staying in the land of Israel? Or did they die because they married Goyim? And the Rambam comes up with they died because they didn't stay in the land of Israel? The answer is yes, because the Rambam obviously holds they converted Machlon and Kilyon converted Rus and Arpa. By the way, look in the Ibn Ezra. The Ibn Ezra says, Lo yitachen sheyikchu machlon v'kilyon elu anashim ad shenizgairu. It is not possible that machlon and kilyon marry these women unless they converted them. And you know what the proof is? The proof is that Nami tells Rus and Arpa, go back to your gods. Go back to your gods. That implies they joined the God of Israel, and now she's saying, go back to your old gods. So we have a major machlokes here. Tosfos, Targum, Rashi say that Machlon and Kilyon converted Rus and Arpa, and the Zohar, the Rambam, and the Ibn Ezra all say they didn't convert them. Which approach is better? Neither are possible. You ready for this? Neither are plausible. And if you think one is better than the other, then, convince me. When you walk away today, you need to understand clearly, neither approach seems plausible for the following reason. According to Tosfos, they did not convert Machlon and Kilyon. You kidding me? 2 Gedolei Hadar left the land of Israel, courted Goyim and married Goyim? This is a scandal if I ever saw one. You're telling me the two Gedolei Hadar, right? Imagine they're on the Mayetzes of the Shoiftim. You know? They had long beards. They had the lavush. When they walked into the room, you stood up. They were the real deal. They were choshev. And they married Goyim. Another thing, like David pointed out, the Gemara in Yevamis, Amem Zayin Amud Beis, learns that, that we learn our Dine Gerus from Nami's conversation with Rus, which, by the way, seems to support what Tosfos and Rashi and Tanakh say, that they hadn't converted until then. So wait a second. So we're going to learn our Dine Gerus because Nami tells Rus, wherever you die, I'm going to die. So from there we learn that she told her that if you violate Shabbos, you're going to die. Or if you don't keep the mitzvahs, you're not going to be able to be buried in our cemetery. Or wherever you stay, I stay, you have to keep the laws of Yichud. So we're learning out Dinei Geiros from Nami's conversation with Rus. Oh really? So Naomi converted Rus? I wasn't aware that when two ladies are having a conversation, you have two ladies schmoozing, but you know, Nashim Chashuvais, Sprinza could say to Yenta, and Yenta's not Jewish yet. Yenta, you'd make a nice Yiddish lady. Okay, you're Jewish. Really? A woman could be a bezdin by herself and make someone Jewish? The Gemara in Yevamos learns out Dinei Gerus from Nami's conversation with Rus. Under which bezdin was it? You need 3 men who are Rabbanim who are in the role of a bezdin. How in the world can we learn out Dinei Gerus from Nami's conversation with Rus? Moreover, throughout the Megillah, Nami is called Rus's what? Mother-in-law. If Machloin married Rus when Rus was not Jewish, then Naomi ain't her mother-in-law. Why do we call her mother-in-law? It's not real, it's fake, it's something like a mother-in-law? Almost a mother-in-law. Another thing, you know, in the end of the story, Boaz is the Goyel of Rus's property, of Machloin's property.
She wasn't married, didn't know her.
Huh? Boaz is redeeming Rus's property. Boaz is not related to Rus. How could Boaz redeem Rus's property? Boaz is doing Yibum to Rus. For what reason? There is no Yibum. She was never married to Machloin. So obviously, she must have converted. All of these things say that Tosfos and the Targum and Rashi cannot be a valid approach over here. Because, number one, 2 Gedolei Hadar married Goyim. And if they're Goyim, Rus is not Nami's not the mother-in-law, and Boaz is not the Goyal, and Boaz is not doing Yibum. Elamai, they converted. They must have converted. Machloin and Kilyain, they went to the Brooklyn Marriott, and they said, okay, you look like Isha Chashuva. We're going to get married. Just one thing, you have to become Jewish. Yeah, you're going to become. So they decided, yeah, we're going to become Jewish. So they became Jewish, and they fulfilled all the mitzvahs, and their husbands die. And tell me one thing. When you convert to Judaism, could you go back to your old faith? No. Let's say you do go back to your old faith. Are you no longer Jewish? No, you're still Jewish. So what in the world is Naomi telling them? Leichna b'noisai shoivna. Go back to your land, go back to your people, go back to your gods. She's telling 2 Jewish women to go back to a different religion? How's she allowed to do that? According to the Zohar and the Ibn Ezra and the Rambam that they converted, how in the world could Naomi tell these girls, Leichna shoivna isha lebeisima? Now this is the best question of all. So Arpa goes back. Chazal say she lived with 100 men that night, and then a Kelev. And she produced mamish, a gezunta kid. His name was Goliath. So you're telling me, according to the Zohar and the Ibn Ezra and the Rambam, that Arpa was Jewish. Goliath was the first Jewish giant. Goliath was Jewish? When David HaMelech fought Goliath, he was the Jewish giant? Now it doesn't say anywhere he wasn't Jewish, but you sure don't get the in the Navi, he's called an Arel. So the Gemara asks, but who says he wasn't circumcised? So the Gemara says, because he's a Gentile. That's just what we call them. That seems to indicate he was a Gentile. But if Arpo is Jewish, then Goliath is Jewish. Another problem. Yeah, really? Machlon and Killian converted these women? So 10 years later, when Ruth wants to go back, and Naomi says, no, you might die because you're Mechal Shabbos or you violate the laws of Yichud. So we learn now Dine Geirus from Naomi's conversation with Ruth. It's very hard to convert a Jew. It's very, imagine you tell a guy, what are you up to? Oh, I have a chavrusa I'm working on. Really? What are you working on? He's in the process of converting. Who's your chavrusa? Zalman. He said, but Zalman's Jewish his whole life. Why are you trying to convert him to Judaism? It's very hard. The hardest type of person to convert to Judaism is a Jew. Very hard to convert. How would we learn out Dine Geros from Naomi's conversation with Ruth when Ruth was already a convert for a very long time? So this whole story seems impossible. On the one hand, if they weren't converted, that's not plausible. That Gedolei Hadar would not have converted them, and then the whole story doesn't make sense. There's no Yibum, there's no Geula. Elamai, they did convert them. If they did convert them, how could she send them back? How Goliath would be Jewish? If she did convert them, how would we learn Geirus after the fact? So the Rugachover explains the whole incident of Megillas Ruth based on an amazing Rambam in Hilchos Isurei Bia, Parak Yud Gimel, Halachas Yudalad Tesvav, number 9 on the sheet. The Rambam tells us that when a person comes to Megayer, we have to check into their motives. Because if somebody has a motive in converting, then their conversion is suspect. The Rambam lists 4 possible motives that a person might have in becoming a ger, and the Rambam says it is prohibited to convert somebody for any of these motives. What does the Rambam says? Boidkin acharav. We check into them. Shema beglal mamain. Maybe they're doing it for money. Maybe this woman is converting because the guy just won the lottery. Right here you have a guy. He couldn't find the shidduch. All of a sudden, he won the lottery, and people are knocking down his door. He became a very eligible bachelor very quickly. Maybe the woman is converting for money, or maybe or maybe for prestige, or maybe out of fear, or maybe she's converting for marriage. So whenever someone comes to convert, we need to investigate their motive. If they have an ulterior motive, we have to investigate it, and if they're converting for that reason, we do not convert them. But says the Rambam, what happens if someone is Megayer for one of these 4 motives? What do we do with them? Do we throw them out? Do we send them away? Do we say you can't join us? Says the Rambam in Halacha Tezvav, Kol hachoizer min ha'akum b'shvil davar mehavli ha'olam, Einoi migerei hatzedek, is not a righteous convert. Va'afal pike, nevertheless, hayu geirim harbe misgeirim b'mei David u'shloimoi b'fnei hadyotos. Many converts came to the Jewish people in times of David and Shloimoi. So what do we do with them? What do we do when a woman converts? We know she's doing it for the money. We know she's doing it for the power and the prestige. Loi doichin oisan. We don't push them away. V'loi mekarven oisan. And we don't draw them close. Ad sheter achrisam. We got to see what the end will bring. The Rambam establishes a great principle that when a conversion is suspect, we watch carefully what the outcome will be. How long do we wait? We're going to wait, and we're going to wait, and we're going to wait. Zak the Rugachover, of course, Machlain and Kilyain were Gedolei Hadar, and they were Megayer, these women, like the Zohar says, and like the Ibn Ezra says, they're Megayer, these women. But the problem is, these women were getting into a wealthy family. There was stature in the family. There was marriage in the family. Every possible ulterior motive may have been there. We don't know yet. Just because Machlon and Killian converted them, do we know if Rus and Arpa are righteous converts? We don't know. 10 years could pass. We still don't know. Ad shetira acharisan, until we see the end. Naomi is a very smart woman. Naomi tests them. She says, go back. Go back. I'm poor. I don't have a husband. I have no child to offer you. Shoivna benoisai, go back. So what does Arpa do? She says, oh, you have nothing to offer me? There's no cash in the account? You're telling me there's no estate? I thought there was the Elimelech family estate with like annuities every year for the almanas in the family. There's nothing in it? Oh, so she goes back. We see retroactively she was insincere. She failed the test. It's not a gerus. She has a baby Goliath. Goliath is the jolly green Gentile giant. Ruth says, no, I'm sticking it with you. I don't care that you don't have money. I want it for the right reasons. Is Ruth's gerus a gerus or not? We don't know. We don't know. She's not doing it for the money, but she knew that there's a man in the family, a man by the name of Boaz, who's a powerful guy, who's a wealthy guy, and especially when she comes in, she heard the news, the wife died, and now Boaz has the mitzvah of yibum to her, even though she's not the wife of Boaz's brother, but she's the wife of Boaz's relative, and even though there's no chiyuv to do yibum, there's a mitzvah to do yibum. So maybe the reason why she's interested in staying with the Jewish people is because she wants to marry Boaz. And in that case, she has not proven the sincerity of her gerus. So she comes to Boaz's field, and Boaz is a smart cookie. Boaz knows that this woman is going to be his wife. But if he publicly shows her that he's going to wine and dine her, and she's going to live the good life with him, then if he... One day, or not one day, it's inevitable that everyone's going to say right after the marriage, she didn't do this sincerely. After she left Moab, who's going to marry her anyway? She only stuck to the Jewish people because she wanted to marry Boaz, she wanted the money, she wanted the fame, she wanted the prestige. There'll always be mafakbakim. So he tells her, come and eat, and he gives her nothing. Meaning, lady, you cannot count on me. Don't count on me, lady. You ain't getting nothing from me. I have money, and I'm not giving it to you. Behind her back, he says, V'gam shol tashaylula min hatzvasim. He tells his workers, drop bundles when she's not looking. So she'll see, oh, shikha, and she'll pick it up, and she won't know it's coming from me. By the way, the Malbim in the Brisker Rav says, the problem is, if she thinks it's shikha, she'll take it, she won't give a meiser, because shikha is pater from meiser. But really, it's not shikha. They didn't really forget it. They just gave it to her. So she's chayve meiser. So they're causing her to stumble. That's why Boaz adds the words, va'azavtem, be mafkeret, because hefker is pater from maser. Behind her back, he says to his workers, take care of her. To her face, you ain't getting nothing. Says the Rugachover, the whole sugya is marumas in the pasuk. Amazing pasuk. Look at number 11. Vayahan Boaz vayomer la hugeit hugali karlat sharasi says chamoisech acharei moisishech vatazvi avich v'imech v'eretz moilatech vatelechi el am asher lo yadat t'moel shel shoim. Says the Rugachover, the whole sugya is in this pasuk. Boaz tells Ruth, number 1, acharei moisi sheikh. Your husband died. So obviously you're not converting for marriage because your husband's dead. Number 2, vatazvi avich v'imech. You left your father and mother. Ruth was the daughter of Egloin Melech Moav, so she's leaving royalty. So you had a royal family, you're not doing it for srara. Ve'eretz moilatech, you left your birthplace. There was no hunger there, there's hunger here. You're not doing it for money. Vatelchi al ama shalayadat timal shilshaim, nobody threatened you, nobody frightened you, because you're coming to a land where no one knows you. But for now, all I'm giving you is I'm sprinkling some grain, and he waits for 3 months to make sure she knows she ain't getting a penny over here. And when she then displays her devekos to Torah and to Naomi and to observing the Dvar Hashem, Boaz says, that day he sealed the deal. With this approach of the Rugachover, we could explain a very difficult Gemara. Okay, we'll end with this. There's a Gemara in Yevamos. The Gemara in Yevamos Amem Ches says, why do Gerim have very hard lives? It's a phenomenon. Gerim have hard lives nowadays. Why? So the Gemara brings an opinion, because when they were Gentiles, they did not observe the 7 Noachide laws. They didn't keep the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. So the Gemara asks, so what? But we know when they convert, what's the principle? Ger, Shenes Gayer, Katan Shenoyel. When a ger converts, they're like a newborn baby, so they're not liable, they're not responsible for what they did when they were Gentile. So you can't say that the reason why gerim have a hard life is because they didn't keep the Sheva Mitzvahs, because ger shenes gayer Katan Shenoyel Adami. So why do they have a hard life? Says the Gemara, Achirim Oimrim, Mibnei Shashahu, Atzman, Li Karnes, Tachas, Kanfei, Hashchina. Because they delayed coming under the wings of the Shekhinah.
They didn't convert earlier?
They didn't convert earlier. What took them so long? And the Gemara then brings a raya, Amar Rabbi Avohu, V'yitem Rabbi Chanina, Maikra. What pasuk supports this position that Gerim have a hard life because they didn't become Gerim earlier? That Boaz tells Ruth, Yishalem Hashem Pa'alech, God should reward you for your act. Utehi maskor teich shlema, and may your reward be whole. Me'im Hashem Elokei Yisrael, asher bas lachsais, because you came to take refuge under the Shekhinah. And the Gemara understands that to mean that you came right away and you didn't delay. In other words, Boaz is telling Ruth, Hashem should reward you because you came immediately and you didn't delay. So we see that if they do delay, they're punished. So listen to what the Gemara is saying, that Gerim Lamaisa are punished because they should have converted earlier. 2 questions on this Gemara. Question number 1, what do you mean they delayed converting? Who cares? But we just said they're not even punished for killing before as Gentiles, because they're a new person once they convert. So even if they delayed and they should have come earlier, so what? But once they convert, they're not responsible for any acts or any failures of before they converted. So the same way they're exempt from not fulfilling the Sheva Mitzvahs, they should be exempt from not converting earlier. That's question number 1. Question number 2 is, they're punished for delaying becoming Gerim? Guess what? Do Gentiles need to convert? No. What happens when a Gentile comes to convert? We say, no, you don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. You're going to convert, and then you're not going to be able to bring your phone into the shul. You know? How are you going to handle that? He said, really? I'm going to have to leave my phone out of the shul? Everyone has to leave their phone out of the shul? No, only Jews. What else do I have to do? You have to eat shal shudas. Shal shudas? Can I eat mezainos? No, you can't eat mezainos. You have to wash. You have to wash. No, you can't. On the winter also? Yeah, the winter also. But I'm not hungry. So you could be a nochide. Just don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery. Believe in one God, and you'll be good. No, but I really want to be Jewish. Yeah, but then you're going to have to eat shalosh shudas. Okay, forget it. You're saying all those people with yarmulkes eat shalosh shudas? Yes. Every observant Jew washes for shalosh shudas. And they don't bring their phone into the shul? Nope, no observant Jews. Sabbath observant Jews do not bring their phone into the shul. All of them? I never saw one. I'm not familiar with that. I never saw one. So, why are they punished for delaying becoming Gerim? They don't even have to convert. So maybe we could suggest, based on the Rugachover, that the Gemara means as follows. If someone is a goy, they do not have to convert. But once they convert, they cannot hem and haw and dilly-dally and do I mean to do this? Do I not mean to do this? Am I sincere? Am I not sincere? No. Once you make the commitment, then they are responsible to show they back the commitment they made right away. Because the Gemara brings a proof. The Gemara's proof is from Ruth, that Ruth, as soon as she had the opportunity, immediately displayed her genuineness and her sincerity. In other words, so according to the way we're learning the Gemara, a ger is never punished for delaying becoming a ger. Didn't have to do it in the first place. It's once they say they're going to be a ger, and now do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? Once they decide they're going to be a Jew, then it's the first Shabbos they wash, and then second Shabbos they take a little sponge cake. No. Once you take the plunge, you have to keep Torah mitzvahs. Anyway, this is the amazing approach of the Rugachover. That did Machlon and Kilyon convert Rus and Arpa? Absolutely. However, since there were always ulterior motives, we need to wait and see what will be in the end. Arpa demonstrated that it was insincere, retroactively was never a gerus, her kids are not Jewish, and they live not happily ever after. Rus, on the other hand, demonstrated that she was a righteous convert to begin with. According to this, you have to say that even though Machlon and Kilyon converted Rus and Arpa, but because it was still up in the air, Rus had a, so to speak, in other words, they must have converted them with a valid bezdin. And now, Nami is just, so to speak, asking whether Rus stands by her original conversion, so she's going over Kabbalas HaMitzvahs with Rus. At the end of the day, in the merit of the great chesed of Boaz, that he was Meyabim Rus, that very night, the last night of Boaz's life, by the way, anybody know what day it was? Boaz marries Rus the night of Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, and then he passed away. And the reason he made sure to do it that night is because once the 3 weeks start, that you don't get married anymore. And that's how Naomi knew that he would get married that day, because after that day, no more weddings in the 3 weeks. And he died on that day, and Oived was conceived on that day. And as we pointed out many times, Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av. Oived was conceived on Shivas B'Tammuz. If Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av, that means Mashiach is conceived months before on Asara B'Teves. So all the Tanesim are designated days for the Malchus Beis David, and that's why the Psukim say that La'asad Lavai, all the fast days will be for the Beis Yehuda L'Sasai No L'Simcha, because latent in them is the fruition of the Malchus Beis David. There are 85 Psukim in Megillas Rus, and Gematria Peh, Mila, which is the hallmark of David HaMelech, Shenoilad Mahol. Afreilach and Yom Tiv, Chag Kosher V'Sameach, and Bez Hashem next week, the Siyat Dishmaya Wednesday night. Kol Tov everyone, good night, Shkayach.